Filipinos do not realize that Filipino culture is one of the greatest, I'm very serious about it, one of the greatest in the world. I am Felipe M Jr. I have been studying Philippine culture since the 60s. I've been to many parts of the Philippines trying to understand who we are and understand how Filipinos can be their better selves. At the very core, Filipinos are very highly relational people, wanting to connect all kinds of people in all levels, young and old, whether you are educated or not, from the poorest to the richest. Filipinos would like to bring people together. That's the very core of Filipino culture, a high degree of relationality, connectivity. This has to do with the philosophy of kapwa. Kapwa means the other person is also yourself. Filipinos believe that they have no separate existence. They're all one. That's the meaning of kapwa. Every person's responsibility is not only to himself, but to others. That's why, according to Claude Tayag, a culinary expert, our culture has no recipe for a single person. It's always a recipe for 6 to 10 people because we expect food to be shared. That's why when you chance upon a family is having dinner, you will always be invited to share the dinner with them. In a fiesta, even if you are not invited, you enter any house where there is food. Pakikipagkapwa is the basis of this because in an individualistic culture, a person feels separate from others and therefore there's no natural responsibility for everyone to serve. In a materialistic culture where people are confined to their physical selves, you don't see yourself connected to others because connectedness has to do with a spiritual belief, no? That the Spirit of God connects us all to one another. So this is the very essence of Filipino culture. A culture of sharing, a culture that would like to bring people together. Our language has been with us since around 2,500 years ago. We were already Filipinos, even though we were not called Filipinos at that time. We were Austronesians. All our languages came from one island in Taiwan, and it's not Chinese, it's a Southeast Asian archipelago. A Southeast Asian place with at least 9 ethnic groups. And one ethnic group there was our ancestors. This ethnic group went down from Taiwan to Batanes, to the rest of Luzon, down to the Visayas, Mindanao, and Indonesia, Malaysia. So the languages of Indonesia and Malaysia came from us. We even brought these languages to the Pacific, Micronesia, Melanesia, Polynesia, as far as Easter Island and Hawaii. And we brought these languages even to the west in Madagascar, Africa. That's why if you go to Madagascar, Africa, they speak a language similar to Ilocano, Tagalog, Kapampangan. It's called Malagasy. And that time alone, no, we were already highly relational because our language shaped us. We shape our language and the language in turn shapes us. Filipino languages are the most highly relational of all the Austronesian languages. We have the highest number of conjugations. How many conjugations are possible in English? The word to eat. Eat, eating, ate, eaten. What else? I suppose you can have at most 12 conjugations of one word or one verb in English, but not more than 12. What about kain? The Tagalog word for eat. In less than an hour, you can come up with 100 conjugations of kain. Kain na tayo, makikain, nagsikain, napakain, palakain, ikain mo ko, nagkainan. So many, no? So what does that mean? That means we are highly relational. From the very beginning, we're already highly relational. Because every conjugation is a kind of relationship. Magsikain tayo, all of us, let's go together and eat, no? O ikain mo ko, do the eating for me. That's another kind of relation, no? Napakain, well, I was compelled to eat because others were eating. Oh, that's another kind of relation. That's every conjugation is a relationship. Also, another thing, look at our languages. It has very fine nuances for relationships. I don't know of any single word in English that refers to a group action. A verb like magsilabas, magsilabas. All of you go out. O magkainan tayo, together, let's eat. Or I don't know any word in English, any verb in English that refers to a collective action. This collective action, that means this is highly relational again. And that's in the language, so much in the language. Nagkainisan, magkasing ganda, magkasing pangit. When you're magkasing ganda, you're equally beautiful. Magkasing pangit, you're equally ugly. There's no translation in English. These are verbs, adjectives that are mutually reciprocal, connecting people to one another. There's none of that in English, as far as I know. So we can see our relationality in our language, but we can also see it in our geography. People say that we're a divided country because we're an archipelago, but the truth is really different. People who live in a landmass rather than an archipelago will even be more divided if this landmass is so mountainous. A mountainous area that is just one landmass is where people will be so extremely divided. Because it's mountains that divide. How can you easily go from one side of the mountain to the other side of the mountain? It might take you days before you can go to the other side. But people in a short time learn to cross from one island to the other through water. Especially because of our origin from Taiwan, no? We really cross islands. And our ancient prowess in maritime navigation really made us very, very skilled in water. The Filipinos all over the world were master navigators on the sea. So, if you go to the Philippines, you will find that any two islands separated by water will speak the same language because we are connected by water and divided by mountains. Look at Negros. Negros is divided by Mount Canlaon. The side that faces Iloilo speaks Ilonggo. The side that faces Cebu speaks Cebuano. Masbate, the one that faces Leyte Samar speaks Waray. The one that faces Bicol speaks Bicolano, and so on. This is true anywhere in the country. If two islands are separated by water, they are more unified. So it's not true that we are divided because we are an archipelago. In fact, we are more united because of being an archipelago. And so, because of our highly relational culture, our creative genius was able to flourish within the traditional Filipino cultures. And that's because in traditional cultures, the sense of community is very, very strong. This is the norm in all of our traditional societies. If there is a very strong sense of community, you feel more relaxed. You don't feel any tension, no? Now, the more relaxed you are, the more open you are, the more you are you, the more you can bring out who you really are. You become more expressive. You become more artistic. You become a natural artist. That's why in our traditional cultures, everybody is an artist, almost no exception. No matter what the work is of a person, you can be sure that he is doing some kind of art. Why? Because the more close you are to one another, the more you would like to understand and do what others can do. If you are very close to the farmer, you will learn farming. If you are very close to the carpenter, you will learn carpentry. If you are very close to the arbolario, you will learn traditional medicine. If you are close to your mother, you will learn how she cooks. So closeness to one another makes you learn so many things as you grow up. This is the reason why the Filipinos are so versatile, multi-talented, simply because when you are one with the community and you like to relate to everybody, you have to know what others are doing. How can you be so close if you are only a very narrow specialist? For example, I can cite the example of Samaon Sulaiman, who was one of the awardees for the National Living Treasures Award in the Philippines called Manlilikha ng Bayan. Well, just like any male in Maguindanao society or even female, almost anybody can play the kutiapi. But Samaon Sulaiman happened to be the best. But do you know that he is not only the best in that instrument, he is also the favorite barber in his town and also a Muslim imam or priest. But he was also a very good farmer. Because he grew up in such an environment where everybody is multi-skilled. And if you are really so relaxed, you can easily learn other skills because you will have no difficulty learning anything if you are doing it in a spirit of play. In a spirit of play, everything becomes so easy. That's the reason, no? Our sense of community, which makes us very multi-talented. My Filipino dream is for Filipinos to be educated in their culture. Filipinos do not realize that Filipino culture is one of the greatest in the world because of the philosophy of kapwa. If we are one, we have a shared responsibility for one another. This is a very profound philosophy. A shared responsibility. It's not dog-eat-dog attitude. It's not survival of the fittest. It's not ruthless competition. It's cooperation, collaboration, harmony. Do you know how the world has survived? How humanity has survived? According to anthropology, we have survived because of cooperation rather than competition. That's the web of life. If there's no harmony on earth, no species would have survived. We have to emphasize that. But our culture is based on cooperation, harmony, bayanihan, doing things together for the common good. This is who Filipinos are, but Filipinos don't realize this. The more we realize it, the better for not only us, but the better for the world because we can promote our culture everywhere. And we can be very proud of being Filipino. Now, the Filipinos are not very proud of who they are, simply because they don't know who they are. Secondly, I'd like Filipinos to discover how different we are from one another. The first one is how we are one, no? But the second is our diversity. We have at least 131 languages in this country. Because the older a society is, the more languages it has. A young society will not have its own languages. Singapore, Australia, Canada, they still use English or French because they are new societies. That means if we have 131 languages, that means we are a very old culture. We are at least 50,000 years old. We are a new nation, but we are a very old people. If we have 131 languages, that means we have so many different cultures. The basic subject that I wish Filipinos to learn, aside from the concept of kapwa, how we are one, is how rich we are in terms of cultural diversity. Knowing all kinds of Filipinos and their cultural genius. This is the best way to make the Filipinos proud of themselves, because the more Filipinos know about kapwa, and the more they know about this diversity, how rich they are, the more they will love the country, and they will no longer fight against one another. They will have a strong sense of identity. They will know that all Filipinos are one.